Scaling Ventures, first and foremost, is a community for rapid growth companies and rapid growth careers. So our intention is really to connect people, ideas, and resources, right? That's what we're all about. And for the companies that make it, right, to that next stage, to after the startup, there was nothing. There was no access to thought leadership. There was no opportunity to network and kind of swap notes with your peers. So we started this event series, hoping to kind of create that setting and create the space for those types of interactions. And I am beyond fired up to introduce a series, Pillars of Scale, Panels of Pillar. And the intention is to go a little bit deeper into functional practices or disciplines, right? So taking a deep dive as we are tonight into talent, revenue, and brand, and start to think about, okay, how do you scale those functions as a founder? How do we observe those kind of functions scale if you're not running point? What breaks? What are the blind spots? So the first topic, talent. So I think anybody will say that in the scaling racket, so to speak, it really starts with people. And the simple kind of analogy, right, is the group that gets you from A to B, and leave investment rounds aside, but just anecdotally, the group that gets you from A to B is very, very rarely the group that can get you from B to C. And if you think about it just in terms of personality type, right, in those early startup days, right, when you're trying to reach product market fit, has been mentioned up here a few times, right, there's a ton of uncertainty, there's a ton of risk. You have to be super responsive and nimble. You're taking feedback loops and pivoting every single day, and it's a very specific personality type that thrives in that type of environment. And then once you reach product market fit, right, it's about bringing the product to the masses, where now all of a sudden the value drivers are completely different. So now it's about injecting efficiency into the business, right, predictability, process, and take somebody who loves uncertainty and ambiguity and wrap process around them, and it's like watching a flower just like die.
So I think when you look at the way that companies build their talent pool really early on, it's common for a lot of founders to start with this idea of culture. What kind of a company do we want to be? What's our mission statement? And then they want to hire for that, and this idea of culture fit, and then finding people who are additive but who are going to help you build your culture. And I think what's really important there is first to understand why that's important to you as a company, right? So are you looking for a group of people that are going to think in a specific way and are going to help you solve problems in a specific way? Is the nature of your business actually mission driven, and you need people who are really going to believe in that?
So I think when I look at a team and I think about growing a business, you have to have an equal balance of high value and high potential people. High potential people are the people that are going to pull the organization forward. They're going to take stretch assignments. They're going to be able to slot up into the next position or the next size company-wise, right? So as you go from B to C, they can ride alongside the business and scale up. But the people that are high value are the ones that are sort of have built the day-to-day, if you will. They're the people that the new people look at as the culture carriers, the culture bearers in an organization, and they're the people that you have to find places for. When you hire high potential people, I always like to say, hey, make sure you come in and celebrate what's been done, and make sure you come in and celebrate the people that have done it. I think the middle ground to what we're talking about also is helping people get to where they can from a capability standpoint, but I think a lot of organizations also push people into roles they're not ready for early, and then you're setting people up for failure, right? You can take someone who's had a great trajectory at a business for a long time and put them in an opportunity that I think they're over their skis, and you can lose that employee.
I think it also comes back to this idea of leverage, and thinking about that as kind of your North Star for how you're resourcing people in your organization. And I think that should be something that's super transparent. And so helping somebody find leverage in their role could mean hiring people under them. It could mean hiring people parallel to them. And it could actually mean layering them and giving them a boss to take a lot of the management load off of them so that they can be freed up to do something more creative or take more risks in their job.
It's meaningful if you're adding a ton of value to different people within the organization, and you're the person that's sitting at your desk and you have 16 people that are running over to your desk at all times and asking you questions. If I was walking into an organization, all I would need to do is stand in the middle of the room and look at the one cube that everybody was running to throughout the course of the day, and I'd be like, that's my guy or girl. That's the person I'm going to. That'd be the only person I'd be paying attention to, because titles are meaningless in an early stage company.
I think for a small company, it's interesting because sometimes you have to do things in order to get to a certain level of recognition and credibility in the marketplace. And so you have to make these different decisions along the way. And I think I have the luxury today, again, being a little bit more of a mature company at 8 years old, to make decisions purely based on, needs of the company and so on and so forth.
Okay, so this notion of revenue, right? Where if we think about it, again, in the context of that next stage of growth, right? Early days, revenue is like this mythical word where it's like, all of a sudden you pick your head up and we have some revenue, we have some customers. Oh my gosh, we caught lightning in a bottle. How do we catch it again? Or how do we now keep our customers, right? What happens when they start churning and you start to burn through that growth trajectory?
If there's any mark you can't miss over the next 12 months is you cannot have a leaky bucket at all. Customer success has to be your top priority, your second priority, and your third priority. Top line sales feels good at first, but managing that revenue in a door and then expanding on that revenue is really where the skill set starts to take hold.
So just to move us in a little bit of an interesting direction too, Monica, I'll flip it back to you, is something that I'm fascinated with. This might be one of my favorite quotes in a long time. Just because you have customers doesn't mean you have a sales process.
Right? The group that you start with is going to look really different when you get to 50 people and 100 people. It's exactly the same thing with the way that you're acquiring your customers. So what we often see is that people get customers, they get really excited, and candidly, founders underestimate how good they are at sales. They underestimate it all the time. I'm a product guy, I'm a developer, I'm the guy that wrote the thing. No, you are amazing at selling your product. You sold it to your first employees, you sold it to your investors, a bunch of them, right? Even if you didn't win all of those pitches, you've pitched your product hundreds of times before you even start talking to customers. But what we say is that you're not really ready to start scaling sales in your organization until you can write down who your customer is, write down how to find them, and then what to say, and then how to get them to buy.
Man, I have a new appreciation for brand. And most of my recent work has been thinking about how to refresh brands, how to inject life and into something that is, and more often than not, right, as we've spoken about kind of this business life cycle, is that when you get to this new Series A-ish, if we want to just speak about it very simply, you have new resources to bear. And so it's how do you inject new life in the brand without selling out, without losing touch with who you are and what made you successful, and it is tough. So, Bill, another one that this has become a lot of my all-time favorites have risen from kind of the leading into this conversation, but the notion of talent-enabled brands, right, and that it really boils down to cultures that know how to deliver brand, and something that you mentioned that I absolutely love, and I think SoulCycle is a perfect example of this, but thinking big and acting small. So could you give us the scoop on that?
So I think you can never make the assumption that one thing sort of resonates with everybody. So I think you have to build a brand that has noble purpose or mission-based. I think today more than ever, when I talk to candidates, they're much less focused on money and they're much more focused on, is this a brand that I identify with? And so I think you have to stand for something, right? And I think a lot of companies, especially as they grow, they lose that sauce over time and they start to stand for less and less, and they become sort of a business that stamps out additional iterations of what they once were. And I think that's one piece of it. I think the second piece is I'm a big fan of freedom within a framework. I think you need to think big but act small. So especially in retail companies, I think the best brands understand that the staff at an Equinox on 63rd and Lexington should probably feel different than the staff at Soho Equinox, right? And I think allowing that sort of freedom within a framework allows the localized brands to really sort of build their own identities. And I think when people feel like they can participate with a group of like-minded individuals in a mission that they're proud of, they take a lot more care of the business, right? And then I think ultimately, Ryan said it well, is getting people really bought into the fact that if the company does well, you're going to do well. And last but not least, again, really 1 + 1 = 3, right? If you hire the right people and they love the company, you're going to be successful.
Is that when you do have to make those tough decisions, look at the macro in those decisions. And what I mean by looking at the macro is look at what's impacting all of the employees and your audience, and not look at what's affecting tomorrow and a number, because big companies get lost in that, and the opportunity to be nimble and small for smaller businesses, you can win by going that way. So I've seen this in real time, and I've made hard decisions in real time about this. As somebody who comes from an enterprise background, who loves enterprise sellers who produce, I had to completely flip-flop my mentality and move away from that and look more at, okay, who can write an awesome piece of content and who could produce this amazing 2-minute video that's going to make my brand shine and make this company that I work for look like a place that everybody should want to work at.
And I said to them, I said, guys, listen, Rumble and SoulCycle, in my opinion, in the boutique fitness space, you do not have a brand until you see people walking into the studio, not taking a class, buying gear just because they can wear it proudly, walking down the street as a badge of honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much.